Welcome back to Conversation from the Crossroads of Southern Music History and Culture. Here is a direct line to Long Live the ABB. Lamar Williams Jr. Lamar's pops played in the Allman Brothers band from 1972 to 1976. He was in Sea Level, founding member of Sea Level with J-Mo, his lifelong friend. Those guys go all the way back to high school together. Junior really came onto the scene for me. It wasn't until about 2016 when he sang with Butch's band Brers. And this is a key moment in this conversation that we have. He and I have been chasing this interview for a long time. I am a big fan of Lamar and his singing, his vocals. He has just worked on so many projects that we touch on here, some of them directly related to the Allman Brothers world and some a little further afield. I'll put a playlist together for this. But here's Lamar Williams Jr. What a fantastic conversation. I know y'all are going to enjoy it.
Got a list of things that I want to talk to you about. I think that probably the number one thing for you, right, would be to talk about this album. And, I've given you some questions that I've got. And then I want to dig in a little bit. This is Conversation from the Crossroads of Southern Music History and Culture, using this Allman Brother lens. And you are legit like at that crossroads because you are the legacy of an Allman Brother. And given Lamar's role, your dad's role, not just in the band, but also as J-Mo's lifelong best friend, the guy who J-Mo told me taught him how to play bass drum, playing bass guitar, so we want to talk about that too.
For sure. Yeah.
But I found this great quote. All right. So the offering came out a couple months ago. We're not going to be timely here.
Yeah.
But you and Oteil have been working on this for a long time. Like this is not just something that blossomed. The blossom was we went to Iceland to finish it. Oteil's like special spot to go conjure the magic.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about like the offering itself, like the project, the genesis, all these things.
So, yeah, I mean, the offering, man, I guess, it's been an offering in the process of about 13 years now. So before Dead & Co. and in between ABB for Oteil, he was at home. He had just got married with Jess, and she actually had to split to Africa, for like a year. She was working with gorillas in the jungle and doing her thing or whatnot. And he was at home, just sourcing things out. Well, Jess had a banjo at the house at the time, and Oteil picked the banjo up just as an exercise, just to try to figure things out, chord progression, just to kind of, zone out, go to another world. Well, during that time, those exercises turned into like tunes to him or whatever. And so he started forming all these songs or whatnot. Well, I wandered over to the house one day, and we're down in the basement in his studio, and he starts playing all these tunes and whatever. I'm like, dude, what's that? He was like, oh man, I just been messing around with banjo and, Jess is over in Africa, blah, 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 and it's just been trying to, fill the space, and like,
Right.
I was like, he was like, I don't know, man. It's just that I was like, what? He'll play another one. I'm like, what? He'll play another, and I'm just like, get out. Like, man, dude, I got to ask, what is this? What are you doing with this now? And he's like, didn't have any plans, so to speak, and I was like, he was like, do you hear something on it? I was like, bro, I hear something all over it. I mean, for me, as a vocalist, I'm not a player, so to speak, but I hear everything, so it's instant for me when I hear an instrumental track with no vocals on it and all these sections of stuff. I'm like, so I basically said, give me all of that. He was like, you want it? So he gave it to me. And this is 13 years ago. This is a special time, man. It's before my writing partner passed, Victor Clark. We were both like playing shows together and great guitarist, songwriter. My brother, like we were just locked in, and we listened to it. Yes, God bless his soul, rest his soul. But he and I got together, and just started hashing stuff out. I mean, just melodies and arrangements, everything just started hitting. And so we record one, and we started with Love and War, and we sent it to Oteil. He was somewhere out with ABB, and he heard it, and he texted back. He was like, "Oh my gosh, like what?" And like, bro, his mind was blown, like, And I was like, "Yeah," because our minds were blown too. Victor and I, we were like, "Man, this is killing!" Like, we hope he loves it, and he loved it, and it just went song to song to song to song to song from there. And I guess after so long, time goes on. Dead and Co comes along. We're sitting there making these tunes and whatnot. We look at each other as he gets the call, and he's like, "Man, I just got the call about this big gig," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing! You got to go do that." Of course, 1,000,000%. So he was like, "Dude, let's just stay in the game. Let's stay healthy. Stay positive. Keep doing what we're doing. Keep adding to the universe. And that big cycle of everything that goes on in between, the roller coasters, the twists and the turns. We'll circle back to this, and it's gonna be more powerful than we ever thought." And so we just left it. We just left it from there. And so, I mean, literally, 4 years go by of Dead and Co. I'm doing this, that, and the other. I meet the new Mastersounds. I go out with them for 6 years. He's still doing Dead and Co. And all of a sudden they're starting to slow down, kind of, so to speak. He just recorded one album in Iceland.
Right.
In which the new Mastersounds was the first they were the first artists to go over to Iceland to record in that studio to kind of inaugurate it. So that was a special album for us to record over there, kind of a tester album called the Deplar Effect. So he got we talked about that. He learned about Iceland and wanted to go over there, and got hooked up with Wade Koyman and Chad Pike. And got the opportunity to go over there and record, Lovely View of Heaven, over there, and beautiful album with Alan Evans and the gang and whatnot. And he and I just, after he finished that, we looked at each other like, "You felt it, right?" Like, you like, it's so magical over there, man. It's like, it's unreal. I mean, it's another world of like truth and humbleness and fire and ice simultaneously. So I it
Keep
all
going,
those
brother.
years.
No. This is exactly.
Okay, all right.
I'm quiet because you're rolling.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Amen.
I don't know, man. So
you were on the record he did as well, right? I mean, and I should have done my homework a little better. No,
not his first album. No.
Okay.
We recorded 2 separate times there, but just understood the magic of Iceland and that nook, outside of Akureyri, and it's wow, man, it's just another world, being able to be with the elves and the trolls and all the beauty of the earth, it's we knew we had to go back there to finish this album, so to speak. It was already kind of encapsulated back then, but we hadn't thought about it all these years, so to speak, all the stuff going on, and we wrapped back around. And I believe it was actually Jessica that told Oteil, she was like, "Hey, what about that music you and Lamar did, to follow up your second album, follow up your first album for your second album over, but he was like, oh yeah, it is time for me to do another record. Yeah, just right. Oh, yeah." So he rings me up, and like, I was like, "Yes, that's where we're doing it at." He asked, "Did I want to go?" And of course I said, "Yeah," because of what we already know about the magic of that place and what it brings out of you, So, man, 10 years later, or 11 years later, we all get to go to Iceland, and create the magic, man. And the record's changed a little bit, from our demos, from 10 years ago, a little bit, with Alan Evans being there, and production being talked about. but like Oteil just baked in like the jam, of everything, of
Right.
how like, how it's gonna be played, and we all just latched on to it and got it, understood the format. It's like, oh, this is cool having it's not like a radio album, like it's not like radio formats, so to speak, or like the traditional radio, I guess you would
Yeah.
say, your 3 minutes 30 seconds or 4 minute songs. I guess that's what it is nowadays. I'm not really hip to it all, but
the
you
old
know,
verse, chorus,
yeah,
verse, bridge, chorus,
there you
like, or
go.
what, right? Like the
There you go.
structure of what pops, y'all
Yeah,
aren't writing that way. But the
yeah.
album, and this isn't blowing smoke. I told you I wasn't going to do this on this call, because I was going to talk to you privately about that, but the album is very listenable, whereas,
Good.
sometimes jam projects, the songs get lost sometimes among the jams or whatever. I've been thinking a lot about this, and the songs, your choices, the songs you wrote,
Yeah.
and then your choice of songs is also, strong. So but I interrupted you. You said it wasn't really a radio album, and then I went my little way. Keep going
Yeah,
with
no,
that idea.
well, you got it. So it's like, it was made to enjoy, to be not rushed through. It's called an offering for a reason. Music is healing us right now. And in all spaces, all times that music has existed, it's there to heal us. So
Yes.
you don't want to rush that. Right now, especially. So it was time to kind of like let the world just kind of settle down and sit in it, for a little bit, so,
And
and like,
I'm glad you said that. That is something, as a listener, that I have
mm,
really focused on over the last probably decade. When the streaming came out, for a guy like me with my just super wide musical taste, I have music going all the time. It
yeah,
was overwhelming almost, because somebody would put out a new record, but I was still listening to an album I had on vinyl or cassette tape when I was a kid, or, like
totally.
I found myself sort of sitting in these little pockets of things with streaming. And then I decided, I think it was when Greg's Southern Blood came out. So this would have been like
Mm,
2017.
yeah,
Every one of Greg Allman's solo records, the good ones, really good ones, take time for me, because it's like you're driving whipping post down the road, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? No, we're going to take this turn. We're going to go all the way down to third and cruise
yes,
for 30 miles an hour, 25 miles an
yes,
hour. It is
yes,
such a downshift.
yes, it is. It
So I
is.
forced myself to listen to Southern Blood until I felt it in my bones. And then I was like, that's what was missing from my life. So I did it with the offering. It was the same thing.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
like you said, it's I feel like you set out what you just explained, you set out to accomplish. I took this line from an interview you did recently. People are looking to be taken to a safe space of peace and healing through the
Oh,
music.
it's true, man. I mean, it's so perpetual of that. I'm lucky to be such a small component of all of the frequencies that exist for us, like, and to be in that one where it's hitting hard, and hitting, trying to lean into truth right now, more into that world, and not make it so complicated lyrically, and just direct, you know, affirmations, and like, just try to be more understood, and not, don't waver from like really loving on people right now, because it's hard, man. It's hard, like, so we're here to heal, man, once again. So
Music is some of the very first art humans ever made, right? Like, to
yes,
break out of the experience. And then for many of us, it's a connection thing to whatever that is,
yes, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever you call it, God, the universe, your feet on the ground, earth, being a human. And
Bring it on. Yes.
you capture it with words, you capture it but it's the melodies always that stick with me. It's
Mm.
I can hum along to a lot of songs I don't know the words to,
Right, right.
like, and then, you get into the words and you're like, oh, it just opens up this whole thing. So let's talk just a little bit more about the offering, and then we'll move on off this. But you mentioned
no.
your writing partner. I want you to mention him again. And he was a guitarist, multi-instrumentalist, I guess, that you worked with.
Guitarist and a singer-songwriter guitarist, just beautiful spirit. Victor Clark, tragically killed, by a person that was sick, very sick, unfortunately, mental illness, and gun violence,
Man,
plays its toll on us, and it can happen, in the blink of an eye to anyone at any time unexpectedly. And
so he was your bud writing partner. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, because I've seen you play some percussion instruments. You don't even really do a lot of that, as like you'll do it when you're really getting into it. I've seen it, but do you play at all?
I tinker, man. So for my childhood, it's people ask that a lot. For me growing up, my dad passed early. We all know we all know that. So I was almost 5. And when so for me growing up in Macon, in particular, Macon, Georgia back then, was pretty much boarded up. It was,
I remember, yes,
downtown
seeing the pictures.
It was nothing of the stories that we knew, that came from, stories of the older generations of what Macon and, Georgia was back then, so to speak. Atlanta had taken its toll, on the musical scene, and that's where you had to go to kind of like be involved in a, broader perspective of music, so to speak, or have somewhere to play, or see music or hear it, or so for me, it was church. For me, it started in church, singing in choirs, mom will put my sister and I in the kids choir. We started there, you're 7, you're singing in kids choir, and, you progress on, through the levels of choir. I guess around 4th grade for me, I'm in elementary school, and they had all the boys in the 4th grade try out for the city boys choir. It was like tryouts coming around the school, and you all had to go, no matter if you wanted to or not. All the boys had to get. We marched up to the cafeteria, and each boy would sing a line with the pianist, whatnot, slash director, and she'd say, yay or nay, basically, in a nice way to the kids. It came down to 2 of us in the school, and I was one of the 2 out of all the boys that got selected for the city's boys choir. So I was like, well, maybe I got something. Now, mind you, I'm not seeing instruments. Dad's gone. I'm in Macon. There's no family there because both my mom and dad, they come from Gulfport, Mississippi, Biloxi area. So all my family's back there on both sides. So we're here after dad passed, and we're just, she's buckling down and just making it work. So I don't see instruments around, or I'm not attached to that visual, and I think that's a big part. Of course, someone has to, put that into your face, and for mom, she was working. She had to go to work by then, and she's working different shifts, and we're learning our way as kids. So for me, I was just like, okay, I can do this. I can do city boy choir. Did that for like a year. Loved it. Learned a lot, hearing all these different talents and whatnot. And so that just kept me propelling in the world of choir. So I would do choir, do gospel choir, city choir, and then I would start little groups in the neighborhood, So we have little singing groups in the neighborhood, quartets, So, break out our pitch pipes and whatnot, get the key, and, do the old school thing. So that was my instrument for me. It was like, oh, I found my instrument. This is what I'll just keep working on, and I'll find others alike that sing, because no one was playing. Like no one had a guitar or drum set or keyboard. It was nothing around in my realm of the world at that time. So I just kept on that, and there we go. We're in middle school by now, so we're in middle school choir. Then we're going to high school, and now I upgraded to concert choir, where now we're actually learning, chord progressions and notation in a different realm, where I'm learning the choirs are broken down to 8 parts, 8-part harmonies, S S A A T T B B. So you have, soprano 1, soprano 2, alto 1, alto 2, tenor 1, tenor 2. You have baritone and bass. So all that's combined, and now we're singing, oh my gosh, all this beautiful classical music. And I'm just in a whole nother world now. I'm like,
You
these
have
are
a
the
lot
instruments.
of formal training as a
These are,
vocalist.
yes.
I have to say, it comes through. Like, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the
Hmm.
breadth of your ability to channel. And we'll talk about some of this a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've
Sorry.
heard you as, no, you're doing great. No. You do not apologize. This is what I want, and because it's fascinating to me, right? What makes up me as a musician and as a human, the building blocks that it took, the guitar that came at 12.
There you
Hearing
go.
Muddy Waters shortly after that, and being like, ooh, that's something I want to try to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Singing for me, I remember being in 6th grade singing in choir, and the guy next to me goes, "You're flat." And I don't know that I ever felt good about singing for a long time ever again,
Oh, wow.
You have this, you have a whole lot of vocal training. You can read music, it sounds like you can, so just keep going. I love the fact instruments weren't around. I don't love that fact. I'm sad about it, actually.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I get it.
But
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
that's an important observation. Had Dad been around at all, had been alive, you might have had a whole different experience with instruments.
For sure.
But you had the instrument that was free.
Exactly right. And
your vocal cords in your soul.
Easy to get to the gig with. Easy to get to the gig with,
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I mean, that world just led me to a lot of different realms, and I would translate what I would learn in the concert choir to, the quartets that I was in as we, progressed. And I guess by the time I was 16, 1994, I had a quartet I was in called the Varsity Club back then.
Okay.
And 4 of us from Macon, Georgia, and we're just kind of doing our thing where we would do all these talent shows in Macon, win talent shows and get all the praise, and and this, that, and the other. The girls would love it, all the stuff back then. Well, we did one talent show where we were in front of like a music producer at the time called Clay D, and we won that talent show and end up getting a record deal out of that. So I was 16 in high school with my first record deal, and then it's kind of like just I would take once again those two worlds and blend what I could, through all those worlds, and so I started learning a lot, in high school of the path that I, kind of wanted to take, I guess through all that process is what I'm trying to get to there. So
it took you, like, this has been a long, I'm going to say a long time coming, on a bigger, the bigger stage. The first time I remember hearing your name was when you sat in with the Allman Brothers at the Beacon Theater. I think it was in 2013.
Yeah, so the story goes, I guess, with that. I mean, just to, my godfather was Shank Middleton, and so Shank, I come up to the Beacon and just was like a fly on the wall for like days or whatever, and Shank was like asking, he was like, "Man, you gonna get on stage?" I was like, "Man, dude, I don't know, dude, I had no plans of like, like that was not even a thought process." And he was like, "Man, just hang around, be ready in the wing or whatever." And Oteil had brought me up there, and he flew me up there, and he was like, with the classic Oteil's seating, whatnot. He was like, "Just be ready. I'm gonna bring you up here, for these last shows or whatnot." I was like, "All right, cool. That's great, man. Thank you." So, I'm there for like, however many days, and Shank sees me, like I said, and he's like, "Man, God bless his soul once again." He was like, "Just be ready or whatnot." So one night it was we were leaving the hotel, and it was Shank, Greg, and I guess just the driver. We were driving over to the Beacon, and Greg was asking me questions about writing or whatnot. How do I write? What's my process, and this, that, and the other, and giving me some good points and good tips of or whatnot of when I get stuck. And that's when I really realized I needed a writing partner, to be honest with you. He planted that seed into me. I said, well, I'm very melodic. Once again, I'm very melodic, and I can't really, pin down words fast enough when the melodies hit me so fast. He said, oh, that's all right, Lamar, that's all right. He said it happens to me all the time. He said, I just get with one of my buddies, and we just, trade it out. I was like, God, dog, that is so OG cool, Yes, Greg. Thank you for that, Jewel. I put that away. We went in, and and we were walking. It was like right before the set or whatever. And Chank said, "Hey, man, why don't you let Lamar sing one or kind of thing or whatever to Greg?" And it was like I didn't know he was gonna do that. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
didn't. He had said early, like I don't know, weeks before that. Be ready a week before that or something like just hey, Oteil already knew too. But I was just still vibing, just lucky to be there, so to speak. Just be a fly on the wall and feel that energy, man. And Tank put it out there, man. And Greg looked and he was like, huh. He said, come see me at halftime. And I was like, he was like, come meet me in this like corridor, like before you get on the
Yep.
elevator to go up, And I was like, whoa, Jesus, like I'm on stand. I'm like on deck, you know what I mean? Like batter up, like man, what's going on? So I'm having to like go through all these emotions. I hadn't told anybody because the band's like out. I hadn't spoke with anybody,
Okay.
yet at this point. So they play the first set. I'm mind blown. Like, man, this is jamming. Goodness. The Beacon's on fire right now. Um, here comes halftime. And Greg's creeping along, like, let me get my little butt over here in the way, whatever. I get over there. He looks, he says, and I'm like, whoa, he gives me the nod. Like, come on with him on the elevator. Man, we go up. And we get upstairs to his room. You get off, get to off the elevator. And he says, "All right." So after he kind of settles down and gets himself together, he said, "All right. So what song you want to do?" I was like, "Jeez, man. Midnight Rider. Midnight Rider's been my favorite song. Like I don't know since first time I heard the Allman Brothers way back when. I'm like." I don't know what they've been doing on their set list or any of that. I just said it, I said Midnight Rider, not knowing that they had just played it like, I don't know, the night before or something. And they try to mix it up or whatnot.
Yep.
And so he didn't hesitate. He just kind of like, he said, and he challenged me. He said, what's the lyrics to the second verse? Like he didn't know it kind of thing or whatnot. So I spat it to him and he was like, yeah. Like, all right. And so he called down. They called down on the radio to Bert or whatnot. Changed the set list because it was not on the set list. Put it at the top of the set list for the second set. Pulled himself together. We got on the elevator, went back down, and now everybody gets pushed off stage. Whatnot. Bert's like it's time to get to work. The band's formulating, whatnot, kind of percolating here and there, and it's starting to come together. And I hadn't left the scene, so now Warren, Warren, J-Mo, Derek, and everybody's looking like, what's going on? Because nobody said the set list has been changed to them yet.
Okay.
So they're like, Warren says, "You about to sing one?" And I was like, yeah, it's like, I'm about to sing, Midnight Rider. He was like, oh, cool. J-Mo comes over. He was like, you about to sing one? I said, he's like, yeah. He said, what song? I said, Midnight Rider. He said, God damn. Like, oh, in classic J-Mo form and out, man. It helped my spirit just like, calm down. It was funny and cute, man. And man, we hit it. So that's how that happened.
Okay.
In a long form.
That's an even more beautiful story than the one that I had heard.
Yeah, a little addition.
So let's talk a bit about this because Chank's your godfather, Greg's best friend from way back in the 70s. Was there with Greg to the very end. J-Mo was your father's best friend growing up, and they were really close buddies. But it's Oteil that kind of brought you into the actual family, the musical family, if you will, right? It was Oteil that kind of made that transition, and he's become like what a guy. I mean, everything you said about him, I've experienced, the little bit I've met him at Roots, and other times I've had interactions with him.
He's the best, man.
How cool is it that he's married to a Jessica too? Like,
oh my gosh, man, dude! What a beauty of circle. That is a whole right, like this thing. Oh my!
And then the banjo, which of course is an African instrument to begin with. That's I think that gets a little lost in the story. I'm a music historian, and the Southern music, particularly Black Southern music, is what
that's what was brought over.
Attention to. So that to me is yet another full circle. And yet we're going to record it in Iceland, the land of the fairies and the trolls and it's not fairies and trolls.
It's fire and ice. Yes, all of that. Yes, man. It's all of that.
So Oteil brings you into this world.
Yeah, man. We met, man. It was like going, I guess, in my maybe around 17-ish, I started going to more shows, I guess. Allman Brothers shows when they would come to the South and in Atlanta in particular, to the Fox, so I would hit those shows, and I guess Oteil was like the younger cat, you know what I mean? Like in 97, well, I guess I was older than that. Dang, I didn't realize I was out of high school in 97. I graduated in 1996. Anyway, but that point, man, he was like the younger cool cat or whatnot. And I guess I was so bold back then as to when I was meeting him and felt so comfortable with him as a brother, man. He was like a spirit I already knew. I had kind of gave him a conversation about me never owning like a piece of my dad's equipment at the time. And he said, man, dude, I'm going to give you a bass, man. Give you one of my basses. And I was just like, what? I was just talking about stuff, and he came up with that. But we just latched on to each other and would talk. And he and Derek sometimes would come to Macon, here and there, or, and I would, we hang out and so we just it was like the younger thing. J-Mo was, older at the time, very helpful. And I would hang out at the shows at Churchill Ground with J-Mo after the gigs and, kick the talk and get all the, get the feeling, get the knowledge, whatnot. So it was really both of them that were inviting to me, but, Oteil and I guess we just started playing music faster with each other, after that, and luckily I got to play with J-Mo as well, with Big Band of Brothers. So
we're going to get into we'll get into some of that too. Actually we can skip over to Big Band of Brothers. That's where we know each other. We met after those that really short run of shows y'all did, the last run of shows. Right. I've told John, the arranger, I've told the dude who ran the tour, whose name escapes me right now. And, I really loved not only the project on record, which I did really like, but I really loved the execution of it live.
Charles Levy.
Yes.
Yes. My manager.
That is your, yes. It was really a good presentation of Allman Brothers music in a unique environment.
Just wow.
Choosing you, and I've said this. I've said this to you in as many words. There is a way that you sing. There's a way that you sing the Allman Brothers canon that is very both respectful of the past, but also carries. You just explained it. You have a lot of formal vocal training, and it does come through. Not as in you're faking it or doing anything, but it is, there's a range of what you do. So, you were in Brers before that, Butch's band. That's where I first heard you lead a band and sing. And I remember going, wow, where has he been all these years?
Oh, wow.
And then, Big Band of Brothers is a few years later, but, talk to me about your approach to the canon, whether it's in Brers or in Big Band of Brothers.
Man, to me, man, I probably said this a lot, but all music is soul music. you know, whether it's Mozart or whether it's freaking, you know, Nirvana, you know, or it's like, all, everything, it all it comes from a spirit, man. It comes from a place, right? So like for me, when I would listen to it, Allman Brothers bass wise, it sounded as if, to me, Greg is a soul singer, you know?
Yeah.
And like he's layering it with they're layering it with, like, you know, Butch's rhythms and J-Mo's, yin and yang, you know what I mean? And let alone what Dwayne's doing over the top, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like all these worlds met, you know, and it literally turned into jazz. You know, it sounds, you know, it's like it's this southern jazz rock blues meltdown fusion of like beauty, you know. So, you know, you can't really duplicate that.
Yeah.
You know. So to try is like you're gonna lose already, you know. So you just gotta kind of like just flow with that stuff, man. You just gotta be in a flow state of like just being in honor, you know, of being able to even play through those notations, man. You know, like, you know, nobody can hold their jock straps, especially Greg. You know,
Yeah.
like it's ridiculous, man. You know, so for me, I just found my way of like reverting back to church, you know, reverting back between those quartets, you know, and like, oh, okay, you don't, you know, you don't, you know, you can't sound like anybody else. I've always been a, you know, big advocate of trying to sound like myself, you know, and whatever I'm singing, you know, you know, so you know, that's kind of my approach on that, you know, in any form, be it Trouble No More, you know, nowadays, you know, or, you know, Laborers back then, which Butch was the one, you know, who charged me on that, which was like magic, man. Gosh, I've been going through all these different years of like, um, you know, different styles of music, you know, R&B to hip hop to rock and rap, you know, mixed, and, you know, these different realms or whatever, where I was kind of like burnt by doing like a certain genre of music, you know, or certain styles and certain tours and this, that, and the other, where I just kind of paused and took a second. And then another Allman Brothers show came about in Atlanta, and I was like, let me just go tell these cats what I've been doing all these years, because I hadn't really told anybody my stories, like, you know, between these gaps. And I'm in my like, you know, 30s now, or so to speak, you know. So I'm like, man, I go to this band. I go to the band, and, you know, between the shows and the after shows, before the shows, we're all chatting and having a good time, you know, at the amphitheater in Atlanta, and everybody's like, "Man, where you been?" You know, kind of thing, like you, you know, like I'm like, I've been doing this, that, and the other. Da, 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 man, can you help me? You know, basically, you know, like if there's anything y'all got, you know, going on, man, you know, like, holler at a brother, you know, so to speak,
Okay.
you know. So I'm going around room to room, and I'm spreading, and everybody's showing love. Like, dude, where you been? That's hey, Lamar, you know. And I'm like, you know, you look into the camera, like, what? Like, wow. It just said, come on. And like really shortly after that, Butch had Roots Rock going, of course, you know, at the time, and Butch was like, "Man, I want you to come to New York, man, and you know, be a part of this, you know, this whole thing. We're playing a show there. We'll play an after show, and, you know, blah blah blah. And, you know, it's BB King's we were playing and whatnot. So we go to BB King's, and after BB King's, Butch is like, "Man, we're gonna start a band." Now, like, it was so good to him. He was like, "We're gonna freaking start a band, and I want you to be in it, you know, and you're the singer, and we're doing blah 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 blah." He was just, man, he was so charged. I mean, like, every it reinvigorated me. It reinvigorated my whole career, you know, at the time, and gave me purpose in the sense of like I had been preaching this, you know, not being so pretentious way of music, you know, of like it's a way of doing that and being really into music, you know, to all the bands I've been in and musicians I've been around, or, you know, things that didn't work out, so to speak, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but we're pushing on them and getting, you know, so Butch just gave me the notion of like, I'm right, so to speak. I've been right all this time. He was like, man, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how we're doing it. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hell yeah, man. So boom. Now I'm sitting here in front of Jack Pearson and freaking, the whole now Oteil and,
The whole rhythm
the whole
section of
rhythm
the Allman
section
Brothers, Mark
from Allman
Quinones
Brothers,
is there.
Mark Quinones, and like I'm Bruce Katz and just mind about Pat Burgess, and I'm like, man, what is going on, man? Like this is just wow, this is where I'm supposed to be, and
Yeah.
Oteil's just sitting over there just like like, yep. So just like, I mean, that was just like this, that was the opening to me to this world, so to speak, from there, like Brers was a stamp, to kind of indoctrinate me into the ABB, family, and I'm forever grateful, and so, it's really cool that, they did leave some lineage around, those cats,
Yes.
so I can still get to feel their spirits, through Valor, and through Melody, and Dwayne and Devin, and Barry, so it's just like, and so on,
Right.
so it's it's really special ground, man, once again, just to be in. So
It is. And, I'm a little more than tangentially related to the story, but I am not blood relation to the story, but I understand what you're talking about. And I, as an observer myself, right, as well as a son, as a a brother of siblings who have died young, and who struggle sometimes to express myself, right, in the world. That's just what it is. And it is I agree with you. Like it is, we feel it, the authenticity of the attempt. I saw LeBrer, got to see you guys twice at both the Peach Fest, your first and I guess your last gig. And here's wishing that concept like that had stayed on the road a little bit longer,
Same here, for sure. It was just getting like, oh man, it was it was getting really good.
It is but like you said, that's what sort of officially brings you into this world.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about J-Mo. What has been, what, he's a quiet guy until he gets rolling. I'm certain he's, sort of keeps to himself, etc. But, did you know him growing up? Did you know the Allman Brothers? Like, so your pops died, I think it was in '83. You were just about to turn 5.
Yes.
So they weren't on the road until later that decade. So what is your just J-Mo, Allman Brothers growing up?
In a nutshell, no. There was a big gap. Everyone, is moving out of Macon. So once again, Macon's boarded up at the time, and everyone's trying to figure out the '80s, there or whatnot, So life had took on its own, so to speak, look and whatnot. So I didn't grow up around them, until the '90s, really, like mid '90s. That's when I, kind of thrusted myself into the music, or trying to get involved in knowing them some, and figuring it out. And once again, it was, not weird in a sense, but like just like that's something that I had to do, like I had to, it was like a calling or something, like that whole howl from my dad, like through my spirit was saying, hey man, you need to go hear this stuff, man. You need to know this. This is a safe space for you. This is something, people leave. It's like no different than, one's family makes a business and the siblings carry on the business, so to speak. So it was like I was lucky to feel that feeling to gravitate to those cats, at the point that I did, and so yeah.
I was trying to find this quote because I'm going to roll it into your pops here for just a second.
Oh yeah.
I'll see if I can find it, but you were really young when your dad died.
Yeah.
Did you know, you didn't know your pops, right?
Well, I mean, I was 4.5,
Yeah. So you just
so
don't have the memories is what
you
it
know,
is. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's tough. Now my sister, she has more, and she can tell stories, and of course, like my older cousins that were like 8 and 9, they tell me stuff or whatnot, oh, your dad used to do this, that, and the other, and of course, through family, but yeah, so I have one fond memory that it never went away of me walking on his back in the basement once he came off the road. It was like he would watch sci-fi. He's like laying on his back, on his stomach, looking at the TV flat out, and he was like walking on my back. I was just like walking on his
Okay.
back, like a freaking like Thai massage, I guess.
I know exactly. I used to have my kids do the
And
same.
yeah, man, I was like, I can feel that the feeling has never went away in my feet, So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it's really
That's awesome.
Want more stories like this? Subscribe at longlivetheabb.com. Trust me, I'm a doctor.
What do you know? Talk to me a little bit about. All right, so let me give you my understanding of your dad, and your dad was the second person to save the Allman Brothers after a tragic death. The story goes, and I've shared this with you before. They brought in people to audition. As soon as Lamar finished playing, Butch said, "I want to take a break." Goes, as far as I'm concerned, this decision is made. That's our bass player. They're like, "Have you ever played these songs?" He's like, "Well, to records, but I never played them live and whatnot." There is a small chance in an alternative universe that had your dad not been in Vietnam, that he would have maybe been the original Allman Brothers bass player.
It's possible,
JMO said, "I don't know any bass player." Like when Dwayne's like, "What bass player?" And he's like, "Well, I know this guy Lamar, but he's over in Southeast Asia right now."
Right. So, I mean, chances could have been, Dwayne was a cat, like open to all things, you can, as we can tell, musically, and so. It very well could be, but I think it was divine, and in the order in which the bass playing was going to happen with this band already. Not knowing, unfortunately.
That's a great way to say it. And of course, had he not been in Vietnam, he also would not have been exposed to Agent Orange, and probably would not have died, so young.
Yes.
Lamar was JMO's lifelong friend. They grew up together. JMO, as I said earlier, said, "I learned how to play the bass drum playing along with Lamar." He gets somewhat of a short shrift sometimes, I think, or has over the years. His time period was the most popular time the band ever was.
Yeah.
But the band broke up and they crumbled. It was a real, and so it almost became, when they got back together in '89, they talked about how they lost it in '76. And it's like, yeah, I listened to those things. No, what you lost was the ability to sort of be a band and be people off stage and learn this and that. What's playing on stage is, and the proof in the pudding, right? Chuck, your pops, and JMO go and form Sea Level with Jimmy Knowles.
Right. Sure. Love the picture, by the way, behind your head there.
Which one's that one? Oh,
yeah.
Got the Sea Level one. There it is. There it is.
Yep.
Yep. I sent you a copy of that one. Yep. That's JMO there.
Yeah, you
That's
did.
That's a JMO picture too.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Cool, man.
So like, what do you know about your dad as a player, as a person, and as a member of the Allman Brothers, JMO's friend, whatever else? I know you carry him with you. You said that to me more than once. I feel it when I see you.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, I have so many stories I've, learned vicariously through friends and, strangers, over, this whole time of my life, but what I've come to know of him is that he was a gentle, pleasant man to be around. He was a sweet spirit, and, really loved music, really was into, he and JMO would practice like every day. They were playing on the coast like, man, my dad, actually dropped out of high school at 14 because he was making so much money as a musician, he and J-Mo, that, he asked his parents, he was like, hey, I mean, I'm I'm working this much, making this much money, making as much as his dad, pretty much, as a musician. And so he started early in the life of, like, he and J-Mo locked in, and learning music in a dedicated form, so he's very serious about it. My mom used to scare me with that when I was young, and she was like, your dad was, like, really serious about music, and I didn't really understand what that meant because I was having fun. It's like, why was he so serious? I'm thinking, but then, of course, as you grow, you're like, oh, this shit is hard. Wow. You gotta be serious, so, I just learned, that he was a well-rounded player, and I look at his album collection, that he kind of left behind, and, like, very vast collection of great music, and I'm still learning to this day and catching up to, so it's just really cool. He came up in a musical family. My granddad was a musician as well. He's a singer, and his brothers and whatnot. My great uncles, I guess you would say, or my how would you call it? What's your grandfather's uncle brothers
That's your
to
great
you?
uncles. Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
your great
I said it
uncles.
right.
Yep.
All right, I
Yep,
got
you
it.
did. You got it right.
Oh God! So they had, like, groups and whatnot. So that was passed down to my dad's family, and all his brothers and sisters. They're musicians on that side. So it's just a musical language that was genetically passed through us. And once again, one of those things I'm lucky to be a part of, man.
Yeah, it's do you have a favorite moment of your dad on record? Very few of us, by the way, have the ability. It was one of the greatest things about Galadriel's book was the way that she talked about getting to know her dad by listening to the music, which is exactly how I got to know her dad too. But not
totally
as my
yes.
dad. It was as a person I was writing
Right.
about. So you have a decent amount of stuff you can go back and listen to. What's that like?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's super cool, man. I mean, uh, he's so foundational of a player, in which for a vocalist is great. I mean, and especially for a band to land on. Like, you get the you can hear the settlement in him. When I listen to the Allman Brothers in particular, you listen to those the live stuff with Barry and whatnot, and you hear what's going on between the guitar and bass playing, and you hear Barry's guitar influence through bass, and all the different textures or whatnot, and then enters this whole other foundational sound that just sits now. you know and now everything else is, like, wrapped around, and can do different things, so it's really cool to hear all, like, all of that. But for me, I guess I'll say what really impressed me with Dad is that he could play upright. Upright bass was a thing for me that's just like a whole nother world. So, like, just to explain the world of where he and J-Mo come from in the jazz realm, like,
Right.
these cats were really heavy into that. wait wait a minute. I know it's another album that maybe different for a lot of people, or maybe what wasn't the biggest records, whatnot, but I think that's a great album. Win, lose, or draw. So it's just like
That
really cool,
song,
man. But that one
yes.
just stuck out to me. I was like, dude, he did it. Like, he got to play upright, and it's not like some super crazy intricate parts, but it's the tones. Once again, it's like a different world of tones for ABB that, like, they stretch. And Dickie was, in his world, and that they were locked in together. It's like it's just that's one of the cool, super cool, things that happened for me. I think that happened for him. That I got to hear. So to speak. So,
Do you have a favorite Allman Brothers song from that era?
man, to be honest with you, man, it's Liz Reed. Just to be honest, Liz Reed and, like, Come and Go Blues, as far as for Dad, was like one of those tunes that really got me because you can hear the vibe going on, you know,
Yes.
especially in Come and Go. Probably not in the right key right now. Sorry, y'all. But you know what I'm getting at. I don't have that perfect pitch like my buddies.
Yeah. No,
But yeah,
the
man.
bass drives that. The Come and Go Blues. So I've got my three favorite Greg songs are Dreams, Ain't Wasting Time No More, and Come and Go Blues. That's like my
Oh,
triumvirate.
man. Oh, you up there.
And Come and Go Blues is just like the perfect encapsulation of that era of Allman Brothers. Ramblin' Man too, which isn't your dad on the record, but
Right.
Come and Go Blues. And then you mentioned before, High Falls, I think is the perfect instrumental for that lineup of the band.
Yeah.
You know, that's what, you know, Sea Level kind of comes out, takes the instrumental part of that. And what I love about High Falls, I also love about listening to like Wipe the Windows, Check the Oil, Dollar Gas, the live stuff.
Oh my gosh. Everybody's going to kill me out there. I said High Falls. I meant Pony Boy. Oh my gosh.
I was about to, so it's funny you say that. I was going to correct you, and I was like, let me just let that sit.
No, you're right. I'm sorry, y'all.
Upright bass on
Yes,
Pony Boy.
Yes,
I know that for sure.
That just blew my brain though. So yes,
Yeah.
I just realized it's a brain fart.
But High Falls is, you know, is the jam, you know, really the probably the most perfect song of that era, and the bass line also
yes
is what carries that whole motherfucker. You've just hit on just about every point, which is great. There's two bands you've hooked up with that I really, you know, it's a unique side of you: North Mississippi Allstars and the new Mastersounds. And you are, to me, like, I love the new Mastersounds, like that sound, that music, what they do, and you fit in really well. Like, I can see where your background in R&B and gospel and even hip hop and rock, but I can see where that side fits really well. Those guys were around for a while before they found you.
Totally,
and you're like a temporary, like you'll join them, you'll go tour, you'll record with them some. But yeah, talk to me about, because I love that side of music, period, right? It's an interesting way that sort of the funk and the acid jazz kind of shit fits its way into this music.
Got that meters vibe and whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, so for me, Peter Levin is another, you know, great friend of mine. Yep, dear brother. We were working on some stuff at the time. I guess I forget, maybe 2018, I guess maybe we were working on something. He was doing like benefit concerts for wounded veterans around the country in different venues. Well, he wanted to do one in Denver at the time, Denver, Colorado. And I was like, oh yeah, cool, man. You know, I'm down with that. So he flew us out to Colorado to play the show or whatnot. And during like we had a rehearsal the first day, and it's like all these random artists of, you know, Peter Levin's world, you know, that I don't know, you know, I'm just meeting cats and whatnot. And Eddie Roberts from the new Mastersounds was sitting in on the gig playing a few of the tunes. He lives in Denver, you know, whatnot. You know, he started Color Red there, and you know his label, and we were doing sound check or whatnot. Sorry, not sound check, rehearsing, and he'd go up and play a tune. They rehearse the tune, and I'm like, dang, this cat's cool. Like, you know, he's playing this 335, and you know, like, you know, doing the things, got this tone. You know, I'm like, wait, hold on, that's a different tone sticking out of there. You know, and I go up, I'll sing a song, I come back off or whatever, and then after that, I guess like the next talk was like in between sets. He was like, "Oh man, after like during the show by this time, he came up to me. He's like, man, I really dig your singing, man. It's really cool. I got a band called the New Mastersounds. We're playing a show in Atlanta in like a couple of months. Check out our tunes or whatever, this, that, and the other. You should come out and sit in with us, man. I think you'll like it, you know." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Right on." You know, and he, you know, he's Welsh and whatnot. He's got the, you know, the British thing going on over there, you know, with, you know, that accent and, you know, all that stuff. And so, you know, I'm like, man, he's dressed to the nines, and I'm like, man, I love a cat that's like clean, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so I'm like, all right. And then now, mind you, I don't know the new Mastersounds. He's like, check it out. So I go home in between the gaps and like check it out. And I'm like sifting through all this music and there's no vocals going on. So I'm like, what does this cat want me to do? Like sit in with them. Like, so I call him and I said, like, man, that's cool, man. I love the band, man. But there's no vocals on it. He starts laughing or whatever. He's like, aha. He's like, man, we never had a vocalist in the band. We've been around for, I don't know, at the time, I guess it was 18 years at that point or something like that as a band. And, we kind of like want to do something different. I want to try something different for an album, for something, man. Come out, man. I think the guys will like you, So they all flew in from England. Um, and we get to sound check in Atlanta and we played the songs that Eddie threw at me, which was like, what was it? Oh gosh. I think it was like, Billy Preston, Will It Go Round in Circles, and maybe something else or whatnot that I can't remember right now. But we were rehearsing the tunes, and we finished rehearsing the tunes. And we come off stage, and Peter Shan, the bass player, looks at me. He's like, "Dude, that was killing." Oh, his great voice and whatnot, and Pete's words. And I'm like, man, I'm glad you love it. Like he was like, man, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? I was like, man, I live here. I'm just kind of like chilling. He's like, what? You just here? He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, man. He said, man, you doing you like traveling or anything? I was like, no, I'm just just around. He spun a circle around the dressing room. He said, man, you want to be in the band, man? Like, and I was like, and Eddie's just standing over in the corner, and his mom's visiting. He and his mom, they're standing over in the corner. He's just like watching it go down. He's like, that's what he wanted to happen. He wanted it to happen naturally, right? And Pete pulled the trigger, and Simon and Joe were like, yeah, that's freaking cool. So they just put me in the band, like right on the spot there. And they were like, okay, now we got to record an album. Come back to Denver in like a couple of months. It was like November. And like we just did some pre-production. Joe and I and Eddie and Peter. Simon was actually in England at the time. We did some writing and hashed out some sketch work of some tunes or whatnot. Came back like a month later and just, recorded our first album. So
that's the one with the Love That
is,
You Deserve on, right?
Yes, it's called Shake It, the album by the new Mastersounds featuring myself. So yeah, lovely. It's a lovely album, great album, man.
What year did you put that record out?
That was 2019, I believe. Yes. So yeah.
So this is, if I'm following, Brers 2016, when your life really changed. Yeah. This is a little bit after that. You're open to these experiences. You start showing up. Yes. You've already decided I'm showing up with the Allman Brothers and talking with them. And these things are manifesting and happening to you.
Yeah.
And that's funny because that's similar to how Oteil or Chank would put you in the situations, and it'd be like, hey man, just be ready.
When
you get the call. Did you write? So lyrically, are those your lyrics on those new Mastersounds records?
Yeah, totally. So Joe Tatton and myself, we were writing partners on all of those records together. And the second album, we actually have two other writers on that album with Joe and I as well. So, but yeah, so I'm always chiming in on that behalf.
You write a lot of you are somewhat prolific. When you add all of these, these things you're doing on projects as well, you've really kind of seized that songwriter space. It sounds like.
Well, once again, Greg planted that seed, man. So it takes a village.
Yeah.
I realize who I am. I'm not, so to speak, a golfer. I love golf, great individual sport, right? But I'm a team sport oriented guy, right? For me, sports and music were I didn't even mention my sports world simultaneously growing up through church and choirs and all that. And so that was like a whole nother thing that I was lashed into. So I always communicated or acted in a team oriented space or whatnot. So, for me, writing, just made sense to do that once Greg planted that seed of like, hey man, don't get stuck. Like, reach out. You know, we
Hmm.
have all these spaces and worlds, to pull from. You know, it's right here in front of us if you just look. You know, so that's what I do now. You know,
And you've done that also with Luther and Cody Dickinson. You know, the Set
totally,
Sail record.
totally.
You are all over that record. I mean, that's
That was fun.
basically.
That was a pandemic record that was really fun and like really life saving. Like Luther reached out, man. Wow, like it trips me out the timing of things in life. You know, when they come, how they come. You know, Luther and I had met, I don't know, years before in Macon on a gig that Butch was doing in Macon, and just was like sitting in real quick and like, oh, you a cool dude. I didn't know what North Mississippi All-Stars did, to be honest with you. I didn't know about them. So kind of fast forward, where where I guess we were on the Allman Betts Family Revival tour one year. Charlie Starr was on the gig. We were in Denver, and Charlie couldn't sing um that night. His voice was like, like just acting up on him or whatnot up there. And he came to me in the wings like, hey Lamar, man, bro, like, hey, this is going down. Can you go out there and do this one real quick? It was Come and Go Blues, and I was like, oh yeah, bro, I got you, man, or
Hell
whatever.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He like, I love Charlie, man. Oh my
Another
gosh.
good cat.
God dang, man. So, while that was happening so quickly, Luther was standing in the wing watching it go down, and I didn't know it or whatever, but he watched it, loved it, and was like, "Man, I think Lamar's cool or whatever." Well, he came to me years later and was like, "Man, I saw you do this thing with Charlie, that thing back in the days or whatever, man. I always thought to myself, man, if I ever had the chance, I wanted to try to work with you, or whatever." If it worked, I was like, dude, that is so cool, because I remembered exactly what he was talking about, and 'cause it was just me and him in the dark over there, so to speak, Charlie and I.
Yep.
Nobody talked about that. Um, and so he's like, man, we got this album we're working on, man. I'd love for you to be a part of it. We're all recording from the house, and just trying to, put it out there and whatnot. He had all these tunes and lyrics and just great melodies and this, that, and the other. And it's like, dude, whatever you hear, let's do it. So we just let loose and just experimented, in a great form. We had never worked with each other, and that's what came out, and
Okay.
luckily got a Grammy nomination for it, which was really crazy, so
Yeah, it's
like,
those things they're weird, right? They're weird because you're like, if you don't get one, you don't want to be like, oh, you don't suck because you didn't get one, but getting the nomination,
amazing.
I'll speak flat out. Tedeschi Trucks, I Am the Moon should have gotten at least the nomination.
Come on.
Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Come on. Yeah.
that was a beautiful piece of another pandemic project that
Yep.
that did that. There is a real sense of positivity in your lyrics. I think about Love That They Deserve, the Authentic, which I don't know if was your lyrics or if those are Luther's,
No,
but
Luther.
you still sing it with a shit ton of conviction.
That's Luther. That's one of my favorites. Oh my gosh.
We talked about it's my favorite song on the record, and it's the way your voices work and the actual very, very simple message about stop being an asshole. It's
being like that, man. Come on, man.
And those guys are, Luther and Cody, and Luther in particular is the more kind of outgoing one. His kids are a little bit older, but they are also carriers of the tradition. I mean, fits
Truly.
Very well to what Butch set up with Roots.
Yes, man.
I know a lot of the cats that, a lot of the younger guitarists, I hang with them. I play with them here in town, and other times I go see their gigs. There's a community that has been created there among the players.
Yes,
that's
bro.
Legit, and it's real.
It's real, man. It's real, dude. I get to feel it too, man. Like that's what Oteil talks about a lot, man. It's like it's really about the younger generation now. Like, yeah, we're gonna still play, man, but like the future is intact. Like the future is secure, man. Like, we just got to get there because these young cats are killing them. Like, I mean, like Taz, man. Like, I mean, like, you know, the Fitzky brothers. I mean, you know, Jaden Lehman, Lara Cross. Like, man, these
Yeah.
from that camp, man. Like, I mean, just the list goes on. You know, like these. Oh wow, I just got chill bumps. Like thinking about like these, like, you know, what comes out of, you know, these people.
Music and community. You know, I'm going to read this quote from your old man. This is from 1974. I think it's in Circus Magazine. Hold on a second. Downbeat Magazine. I'm sorry.
Downbeat.
And Lamar, somebody asked him, what does Southern blues mean? So this is your pops. He says, well, I can relate to down home, you know, musicians who come up in the South, musicians who come up on the West Coast, the East Coast, anywhere. The environment affects their heads. In most cities, you have a whole bunch of other static going on. Down South, living in a small town, Macon, you have a lot of time to put into it. You have a lot of time to check out other stuff, check out a lot of stuff in your head. The whole South is laid back. That's where the atmosphere comes from.
Yeah, man. That's totally it. I mean, it's like it's lending for exploration. All the silence and the quiet that you can experience, you know, that's the healing, you know. Like if I walked outside right now, man, that frequency changes. You know, if I walk into those woods over there, like, oh man, whoa, it really changes it. Like I go by the creek, oh my gosh, like I would know, like, whoa, hold up. Like it just, I don't know, man. We're directly tied to it. You know, as long as your L is open, you know, that's what Luther likes to talk about, like leaving your L open, you know.
Well, I like that.
Leaving it open, man. Don't shut it off. You know, let it keep raining down through you, you know, and coming back, man. So it's just, you know, I try.
My friend calls it, my friend Richard, I just put out my podcast interview with him. He calls it Earth School. We're in Earth School. We're
Earth
constantly learning. We can't. And that's that L also, right? You can't,
yes, I like that.
If you turn it off and shut yourself down, you're not open to the possibilities of life, which is lived alive and awake and, you know, those sorts of things.
Yes.
So it would give you one last one. I'm gonna give another one from your pops. What is the special quality that the Allman Brothers band has? Here's your dad in 1974. It's a religion. For instance, I can feel just blah. But when I get on that stage, there'll be so much energy flowing from the other 5 cats that they just lift me in a real strong spiritual way. It becomes a real strong spiritual thing to get to the point where 6 cats on that stage, their job is to produce a sound, the Allman sound. But I don't think it can be put into any particular category.
Oh, man, that's another It's real, man. That's oh Lord, I'm so glad that I truly believe the same. Exactly. That is so profoundly the truth. It makes you buzz, man. It changes everything.
We feel it, you know, like it's a group experience. And that was a founding precept of jazz, of blues, of the Allman Brothers band, you know, this idea that the audience is in part, you know, sort of giving back. I can't not, every time Alicia Shakur sings It Ain't Fair, I end up in tears.
Ooh.
Every single, I can't even control it. It's like, it's, you know, and that's, you know, it is the same thing. A lot of times when I'll hear Dreams done super well, I feel the same way, just because the music itself, the lyrics, what they stand for, actually what It Ain't Fair stands for as well, you know, like it hits you, you know, in those ways. And it, you know, I'm not here to blow smoke. You know, we've talked how I think very highly of you and the work that you've done. I'm so glad you just gave me all this time to unpack. Where did this guy come from? You know, because that was legit the question. And
right on.
You know, I'm gonna give this group, you know, a listening assignment. I do want you to listen to anybody who's in my world, to listen to the offering. But I'd really gonna encourage you to put the final track, Earl King's Time for the Sun to Rise, on a couple repeats. I did my homework, Lamar, you know, when I brought it up, and was really taken by that version that you did. And I've listened to multiple versions, actually, you've done, including this little hotel jam with Luther. Is Luther who hipped you to that song?
Yes. Okay. Yes, 1,000,000%. I had no idea, man. We were in Memphis rehearsing, and yeah, he brought it up. He was like, he had a whole play. I mean, he's got a Rolodex. You know what
He's
I
an
mean? Like,
encyclopedia. He's like Haynes. He's an
man,
encyclopedia.
just mind blowing. Like, dude, like they're way like he and Cody, man, they are so in the thick, bro. Like you have no idea. So like I learned so much, that I should have already known or somewhat. I felt like damn, how do they know this much? But so yeah, he threw me that bone, and I was like, man, but he wanted to do it different. He wanted to slow it down himself. They have a version with Cody singing, and they mixed it up, giving it a different, which you can take the song anywhere that you hear it,
Right.
so to speak. So which was a nice approach because at the time when we were out with North Mississippi Allstars, we needed an opener sometimes to like kill some time. Um, so had the idea, I guess, at some point on the tour. It's like, hey man, you and I go out there and just sing like, a couple of acoustic songs, and just, loosen up real quick, take a little 20-minute, 15-minute intermission, then we'll hit, and then the whole band hits, or, whatever, So that's kind of where that came from. He was like, man, we need to do this. And, you know, literally that hotel jam was in Memphis, at what's the Elvis hotel? Was it
I
right
know
next
the
to
one you're talking
Graceland?
about. Yeah.
Yeah, we were there, for a gig, for Mempho Fest. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man. So luckily get that one. But the translation on that one was patience. Because it's so cool lyrically of what he's talking about. Like you can put your life into it, and you can see as a man how life unfolds in so many different ways and all these and how time is short, and
Mm-hmm.
how, it's just Earl did such a great job. Mr. King did such a beautiful job with that, like it just amazes me. So I'm just lucky to even be able to touch that one, man. And to be able to record it in Iceland gave it exact, like I don't think we could have got it that way here in the States for whatever reason. Like that we needed space and more space and more space. It's like, you're 50 miles away from the North Pole at this studio,
Yep.
basically, so it's like, oh dude. And that was the last song we recorded there. So
So you describing it describes the feeling of the song, which is crazy. It feels open, refreshed. It's got a lot of room to breathe within the song. The interpretation is not rushed.
no.
And I was really taken by it when I first listened to it, and I'm throwing this out there to the world here. Now you've just heard Lamar explain the genesis of doing the song. Just look up "Time for the Sun to Rise," Lamar Williams Jr. with Oteil Burbridge to hear the track on the record. But again, the offering is the one to hear. Before we go, how does anybody follow you? How do they get in touch with you? Your music, the things that you're up to. You got any place you're sending folks?
Well, I mean, you can follow me on my website, lamarwilliamsjr.com. Dates, upcoming dates will be there, as listed. If something's not there, if you, search back, well, check back soon, it'll be up there. Sometimes I'm a little slow on it. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so yeah, check out my website, Instagram, Lamar Williams Jr. Also Facebook as well. I'm trying to get into the TikTok with my kids and this, that, and the other whatnot. And
I
all
have a
the
little
other
fun with it every once in a
platforms.
while, a little
Oh
TikTok.
yeah, yeah, okay.
All right, Lamar, I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to hit stop here.